guided meditation, understanding and compassion for the war in Central African Republic. The war in the Central African Republic, CAR, is a complex and multifaceted conflict that has its roots in a long-standing political, ethnic, and religious division. That is within the country. To understand the conflict, it is important to examine its historical context and key events that have shaped its trajectory. Historical context. The CAR gained independence from France in 1960. Since then, the country has experienced a series of political upheavals. It's interesting, though, that this written history starts from there. There have been many, but anyway, at that point, there have been many political upheavals, military coups, and armed rebellions. The government has struggled to maintain stability and extend its authority beyond the capital, Bangui. The political landscape has been characterized by a lack of effective governance, corruption, economic mismanagement, and the marginalization of certain ethnic and religious groups. Emergence of armed groups. Armed groups have played a significant role in the CAR's history, with various factions emerging over the years. In the 2000s, several rebellious groups such as the Union of Democratic Forces for Unity, UFDR, and the Convention of Patriots for the Justice and Peace, CPJP, emerged in response to grievances against the government. These groups were primarily composed of marginalized ethnic and religious communities, particularly Muslims from the north. The Seleka Rebellion. The current phase of the conflict began in 2012, when the Seleka Rebellion emerged. The Seleka, meaning alliance in the Sango language, has a coalition of predominantly Muslim rebel groups that accused the government of President Francois Bozize of failing to implement various peace agreements led by Michel Djotodia. The Seleka forces rapidly advanced across the country, capturing major towns and eventually toppling Bozize's government in March 2013. Escalation of violence following the ousting of Bozize, the country descended into a state of anarchy and violence. The Salaka rebels, lacking a unified command structure, committed widespread human rights abuses, including looting, rape, and murder. In response, self-defense militias known as anti-Balaka, primarily composed of Christian animist communities, emerged to protect their communities. The anti-Balaka groups also engaged in retaliatory attacks and targeted Muslim communities, leading to cycles of reprisal violence. International intervention. As the conflict escalated, an international convention force known as the African-led International Support Mission to the Central African Republic, MISCA, was deployed, later replaced by the United Nations Multidimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in the Central African Republic, MINUSCA. The international forces aimed to restore security, protect civilians, and support the political transition process. Political transition and ongoing challenges. In 2014, Catherine Samba Panza was appointed as the interim president to lead the political transition. Elections were held in 2016, and Faustin Archange Touadera was elected as the new president. Despite these political developments, violence and insecurity persist in many parts of the country. Armed groups continue to operate, often driven by competition over resources, territorial control, and ethnic or rebellious divisions. The humanitarian situation remains dire, with widespread displacement, food insecurity, and human rights abuses. Efforts at reconciliation and peacebuilding. Various efforts have been made to promote reconciliation and peacebuilding in the CAR. The African Union and regional actors such as the Economic Community of Central African States, ECCAS, have been involved in peace initiatives. Additionally, the Special Criminal Court, SCC, was established to investigate and prosecute individuals responsible for serious crime committed during the conflict. However, achieving lasting peace and stability in the CAR remains a significant challenge. The conflict's complexity including its ethnic and religious dimensions, the proliferation of armed groups, and the country's weak institutional capacity presents significant obstacles to a peaceful resolution. The war in Central African Republic has resulted in significant human suffering and displacement, with devastating consequences for the civilian population. The conflict has had a profound impact on the lives of individuals, communities, and the country as a whole. Displacement and refugees. The conflict has caused widespread displacement within the country, with hundreds of thousands of people forced to flee their homes. Many internally displaced persons, IDPs, seek shelter in overcrowded camps or informal settlements. Informal settlements, where they face dire living conditions and limited access to basic services such as clean water, healthcare, and education. According to the United Nations, as of 2021, there were approximately 600,000 internally displaced persons within the CAR. The conflict has also resulted in significant numbers of refugees seeking safety in neighboring countries. Countries such as Cameroon, Chad, and the Democratic Republic of Congo have received thousands of Central African refugees, placing additional strain on already fragile host communities and limited resources. Humanitarian crisis. The protracted conflict has created a severe humanitarian crisis in the CAR. Access to food, water, and healthcare is limited, leading to high levels of malnutrition and the spread of diseases. The United Nations estimates that nearly 2.8 million people require humanitarian assistance, which is about half of the country's population. Human rights abuses. The war has marked widespread human rights abuses committed by various armed groups. Civilians have been subjected to violence, including killings, sexual violence, forced recruitment of child soldiers, and arbitrary arrests. Both the Seleka rebels and anti-Balaka militias have been implicated in these abuses. The lack of accountability for these crimes further exacerbates the suffering of the affected population. Impact on education and health. The conflict has had a devastating impact on education and healthcare systems in the CAR. Many schools have been destroyed, damaged, occupied by armed groups, preventing children from accessing education. The disruption of healthcare services coupled with the destruction of medical facilities has resulted in limited access to essential health care for the population, leading to increased mortality rates and the spread of preventable diseases. Socio-economical consequences. The war has severely disrupted the country's economy, exacerbating poverty and hindering development. The conflict has disrupted agricultural activities, trade, and infrastructure, leading to food insecurity and economic decline. The lack of security has also hindered humanitarian and development organizations' abilities to deliver assistance and aid. Addressing the human suffering and displacement caused by the war requires concerted effort from the international community, regional actors, and the Qatar government. Providing humanitarian assistance, protecting civilians, promoting human rights, and supporting peace-building and reconciliation efforts are crucial steps towards alleviating and suffering and rebuilding the lives of those affected by the conflict. Let's take a moment to engage in a guided meditation on compassion for the situation in the Central African Republic. Find a comfortable position. Close your eyes and let's take a few deep breaths to center yourself. As you breathe in and out, allow your body to let go of any tension or distractions. Bring your attention to the suffering and displacement experienced by the people in the Central African Republic. Visualize the faces of those affected by the conflict, the displaced families, the children without access to education, and the individuals struggling to find food and shelter. See their pain and their longing for peace and stability. As you continue to breathe, cultivate a sense of compassion within your heart. Feel a deep empathy and concern for the suffering of the people in the Central African Republic. Recognize their shared humanity universal desire for safety, for well-being, and for happiness. With each breath, imagine sending waves of compassion and love to the people affected by the conflict. Visualize this compassion as a warm and radiant light that envelops them, providing comfort, solace, and healing. Let this light spread across the entire country, bringing hope and resilience to the people. Now, extend your compassion beyond the individuals and now towards the leaders and decision makers involved in the conflict. Recognize that they too are influenced by their own fears, biases, and limitations. Send thoughts of understanding and wisdom to them, envisioning a transformation that leads to peace, reconciliation, and a better future for the Central African Republic. As the meditation comes to a close, take a moment to express gratitude for the opportunity to cultivate compassion and send positive energy to those in need. Carry this sense of compassion with you throughout your day, allowing it to guide your actions and interactions with others. Remember that compassion is a powerful force that can bring about positive change both within ourselves and in the world.